imagine that I'm working on a DOT team that's involved in developing an MOT, a maintenance of traffic plan, for a restriping project that will involve some lane closures along the southbound lanes of this interstate through downtown. My primary goal as a work zone engineer here is to minimize disruptions and reduce traveler delays. But just as importantly, I want to avoid overwhelming the local neighborhood streets with detours and putting other kind of local businesses and residents and road users at unnecessary risk because of all of this detouring traffic. So working with the contractor, they're interested in closing a single lane of the interstate during the weekday hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. From my experience, I know that that could be problematic, and I would like to advocate for a closure maybe of multiple lanes, but on the weekend. And without having access to the closure impacts module, this could require actually going in and developing a micro simulation model or making some assumptions around those different alternatives. And this is just not something that we have the time or the resources to do. And also, we want to make sure that this is repeatable across different segments of the interstate as we're kind of working through that entire corridor for the restriping project. So within the traffic monitor, we can go here to the closure impact module. And in this instance, we're looking to close a section of this interstate highway through downtown. And we can easily create one or more scenarios looking at different closure windows, different levels of lane closure, and be able to map the impacts of that in terms of diverted traffic volumes. So what I'll do is go to this menu on the right here and add a new scenario. We can again select from roadway segments along a freeway or interstate facility. So I can simply go here, point and click and hold control and define what the kind of extents the project limits are. And then with this slider over here, I can go and adjust the kind of remaining capacity. So in this instance, we're looking to close one lane out of 3. So 66% capacity, we'll just go ahead and just run that as 60% capacity for this particular scenario. We can go here and name the alternative, select the historic time period of analysis for the baseline conditions, select whether that closure is occurring on a weekday or a weekend day. And then we can go here and actually define the duration and the time period for that closure. So in this case, we're looking at a closure between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on a typical weekday. And once we've defined all these parameters, we can hit apply and run that scenario and have something available in just a matter of minutes, as opposed to days and weeks to develop, calibrate a micro simulation model. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this and load a scenario that I've already run. So what you're going to see here on this color scale is first we can look at the detoured volumes. So each segment here shows what the kind of baseline typical volume is in vehicles per hour. And you can also then look at what the scenario volume is when we actually make that lane closure, and you can see where these volumes are diverted. So we could look at this in terms of kind of total diverted volumes. We could also look at this in terms of kind of atypical volumes. So where corridors might be overwhelmed because there's not enough existing capacity. So based upon this particular scenario on weekdays, we'll see that most of the traffic is diverting along this particular corridor here to the south. But optimistically here, we're not seeing major kind of detouring impacts in the residential neighborhoods. Now, I mentioned at the outset that I, as the work zone engineer, was really interested in looking at the weekend closure as well. So it's really easy here to run multiple scenarios and have an easy way to compare those two. So what you can see here on the left was our original scenario where we basically closed one lane down on a weekday between 9 and 3 p.m. On the right here, you can see a slightly different scenario where we closed two lanes. So we have reduced the capacity of 30%, and we ran that closure on the weekdays. And again, a kind of initial review here, you'll see that the traffic impacts are not significantly different with this weekend closure. And what this allows the contractor to do is to get the work done faster, so travelers can get on their way quicker. And once you have this information, you can also work on mitigation strategies. So again, if we're looking at this particular corridor that's seeing a lot of diverted volumes, we could put together an updated signal timing plan for some of the signalized intersections to help the throughput. We could also look at this frontage road where we're seeing a lot of diversions and higher traffic volumes. Thankfully, that doesn't really affect too many local businesses, but we can also put plans in place to help maintain the flow of traffic there. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we have communication and outreach to the local residents as they're walking or driving about their communities. So with the closure impacts module of Traffic Monitor, agencies can have kind of defensible analytics, with multiple alternatives and scenarios to result in smoother closures, fewer surprises, and better coordination between agencies.